Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
It certainly is Ask Rob and Rob. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, happy Tuesday. We certainly got some great questions in this week, and if you'd like to join the show and get your questions answered, then please do get them in. We make it super simple for you to do that.
We sure do. You just have to call 013 808 0035. That's 013 808 0035, or you can go to propertyhub.net/ask. Using either of those very simple methods, just record your question for us and we will furnish you in due course with an answer. So let's deliver on that promise right now for Harry.
Hi Robs, I'm Harry from Bristol. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you very much for your podcasts. Over the last month I've listened to a year's worth and they've been very valuable and have saved me from spending tens of thousands of pounds on a course. I'm currently preparing to invest for the first time and I'm currently at the stage on choosing an area and wondered if I could ask your opinion. My current circumstances are that I'm from Bristol. I have £25,000 to invest, so 100k with a 75% LTV mortgage. I'm only interested in cash flow at the minute. The capital I'm not worried about, that can come later. And therefore the strategy that I'm looking at is buy-to-let, refurbish, refinance. I'm currently debating in terms of areas the northwest of the country, which you talk about a lot. However, my concern is the likes of Liverpool are 3.5 hours drive away, so a 7-hour round trip. I'm also considering South Wales, which you don't seem to mention much on your podcasts. However, it's only a typical 40-minute drive away. Therefore, I was just wondering on what your opinion would be between these areas. South Wales, again, you don't mention a lot. Why don't you? Should I be worried? And ultimately, in your opinion, if you're in my shoes, would you be looking to invest closer to home where it's quicker to get to so that if an estate agent has a quick deal, you can get to quickly? Or is it better to go up north where the properties are slightly cheaper and I might be able to get a bit more for my money? Hope you can answer the question. Have a nice day. Cheers.
Harry, great question. The reason I really like this question is it's going to help a lot of people. You're going to get your answer, but I think a lot of people will learn from this as well. So, first of all, why not Bristol? Because you've not touched on that. I think for people who don't know the market, Bristol is going to be too expensive for you to do that strategy. You're going to need to look in areas with lower priced properties. So you're considering Liverpool and you're considering South Wales, but Liverpool's a lot further away. But you hear Rob and I bark on about places like Liverpool all the time and not so much South Wales. So does that mean you've just got to get in the car and put the miles in? No. Rob and I talk about the areas that we do more from a capital growth point of view. So areas that we think are going to do well from a growth perspective. Because overall, in the long term, that's where the real wealth is made. However, sometimes your strategy will dictate that you go after income or cash, which yours absolutely does right now. So does it matter at all if you consider any of those areas? Well, there is a benefit to looking at those areas. And that is, if you get your sums a bit wrong, but you're operating in an area where there's a bit of growth at the moment, that market can be a little bit more forgiving. Because if the property goes up by 5% during your refurb period, but your spend goes over by a bit, that increase in capital growth can really save your bacon and make sure that you still come out of it profitable. Now, you don't want to be relying on that when you're doing a refurb project, but it's a nice bonus. The other thing about areas where capital growth is on the up is that those areas tend to be a little bit more lively. So transactions are up, which is great if you're selling. However, if you're refinancing, that you've touched on, doesn't matter as much. So that's why you may want to consider those areas. But I think you'd be more than okay operating in South Wales. And that's because while all those things are great bonuses, they're not essential to the strategy. What is essential to this strategy is buying the property at the right price and getting your numbers right on the refurb. Now, to do that, you can operate pretty much anywhere. So if South Wales is the closest market that allows you to operate this model, then look at South Wales. It also means that you could double down on your research, not just from a desktop point of view, but by visiting on a frequent basis and really getting to know the market and the agents that operate in that area. So South Wales is absolutely doable. And we have nothing against South Wales. I think it's a great market to operate for property investors. We just think there are some areas in the country that are better for capital growth right now, but it's absolutely not a bad area. I think most of the UK will do well in 2020 and beyond. Not barnstorming well, but this year, solid. It's not going to be dropping. So hopefully that gives you some comfort. You can start doing your research operating in South Wales, but remember, it's all about the price you buy it for and then getting your numbers correct. And it doesn't matter where you operate. Those two things are fundamental to making sure your strategy is going to be a success.
A great answer there for Harry. Hopefully you found that helpful, and there are a lot of lessons in there for everyone else listening as well. Let's have a listen now to our second question. This is someone who didn't give their name, so I'm going to call them Boris. No, not that one.
Hi there, just a quick question in relation to buy-to-lets. I've currently got a tenant that is vacating the property, and there's quite a lot of mould and damp in the property. Some of it is going to be due to the fact that the way the property is built, venting is not great, so there will be some. But am I entitled to ask the outgoing tenant to pay for remedial works like antifungal paint and a redecoration where needed in relation to this? And also, additionally, I'm changing to a new letting agent at the same time. And what happens about the money that's held in deposit? Can both letting agents work together to get the work done, or do I need to pay for it myself and claim it from the pot of money that the initial letting agents got? I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Boris. Well, let's cover each part of your question in turn. To start with, can you charge the tenant for the mould and damp in your property? The answer is you could try, but you'll probably struggle. And should you be doing it anyway? So if you have an inventory done at the start of the tenancy, and then you get the checkout report done, and it shows that there's a lot more mould and damp problems than there were at the start, then you could try and put in a claim for remedial work. The tenant then might, quite rightly in my opinion, contest that because it's not their fault, it wasn't because of their use of the property. Then it would be up to the deposit scheme to decide. If you ask me though, you shouldn't try to claim for this because it sounds like it's not the tenant's fault. Often the way that people use a property does contribute to damp problems. You'll often get people who will refuse to open the window, even when they're cooking and there's lots of steam all over the place. They'll be drying the laundry inside, and as a result of their lifestyle, they end up creating problems. If that was the case, then you could make the argument that that goes beyond fair wear and tear, and you could be compensated for it. In this case, you've said that it's the nature of the property. It's not well ventilated. In that case, there's nothing that they could have done differently to avoid that. Therefore, it's your property, and it should be your responsibility to put that right. Ultimately, though, the decision is up to you. So if you've got a good inventory, then you could have a go if you wanted to. On the second part of your question, if your previous letting agent is holding the deposit, then they would have to deal with the deposit claim, and they would then release the amount that you're claiming to you if your claim is successful, and the remainder to the tenant. Then your new agent would just take a deposit from the new incoming tenant. They would just hold on to that or register it, and that would be that. So there's no need for the letting agents to collaborate. Your old agent will deal with the return of the old deposit, and your new agent will deal with taking a new one. So hopefully, Boris, that gives you a bit of clarity and helps you decide on which way to go.
So thank you, Boris. Thank you, Harry, for your questions. Remember, if you have a question, it's really easy to get involved. Go to propertyhub.net/ask. We'll be back next week because we've already got a few questions lined up for next Tuesday and they look lovely. So make sure you join us for that. And of course, we'll be back with the main event, the Property Podcast, on Thursday. So until then, take care, have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.